What's up, guys? It is Chris back with another watch video. Today we're talking about 5 brands that lose a ton of value on the secondary market but are great horological bargains. So I came up with 3 simple rules that these brands needed to meet. First, they need to be a Swiss-made brand. Second, they have to have an iconic watch, whether they currently make it or they made it in the past. And then they need to be a major brand. So my first watch that I chose, or first brand that I chose, is Eterna. And I really think Eterna, I would call them an extreme bargain. They are a brand with a long history of watchmaking and some amazing achievements. They were the original owners of ETA Movements prior to it being sold off to the Swatch Group. They also have a very iconic watch in the Kontiki. In 1947, Thor Heyerdahl set out from the Peruvian coastline into the Pacific Ocean on a simple raft made of balsa wood. That raft was named Kontiki after an Incan sun god. And essentially, he was out to prove pre-Columbian Indians of South America were able to reach Polynesia on a simple raft like he had created. He was on this raft with 6 other explorers, and they were all wearing Eternas. They were on the raft for 101 days and nights, and they made it. And their watches helped them guide the way the entire time. Like I was saying, the Kontiki actually has a lot of history behind it, and it is definitely an iconic watch. It's a watch that's been used by Israeli Special Forces, and Eterna itself is a major brand, and they, for a very long time, were the producers of Porsche design watches. So just until recently, they had the contract with Porsche Design, and really, arguably, Porsche Design, one of the most successful car watches that are really out there. Most watches that associate, most brands that associate themselves with cars, like Ferrari and Lamborghini, usually fail, and these were pretty cool watches, and some Porsche Design watches are actually iconic in and of themselves. But despite all of this horological credibility, most of these amazing watches can be had for about 75% off, including those Porsche Design watches. And all the better for us, but in recent years, they have produced even in-house movements, and even on those watches, those are still discounted pretty heavily. Again, all the better for us, but not really great for the brand itself. And I believe in recent years, Eterna have really been having problems keeping the doors open, and I don't know what's going to happen with the brand in the near future. The second watch on my list, or second watch brand on my list, is Roger Dubois. Despite the current astronomically priced watches that they're offering, and they're a little bit out there in design, not talking about those watches. What I'm talking about is the watches from the early 2000s and 2010s. There were some really amazing watches that Roger Dubois put out, and they don't get the credibility that they deserve. However, they are really hot horology, and Mr. Dubois began his watchmaking career during the golden age of Swiss watchmaking, starting at Longines when Longines was at the top of its game in the late 1950s. Then he moved to Patek Philippe, where he spent 14 years working in their high complications workshop. And then after that, in the 1980s, he left to open up his own shop, where he worked exclusively on very high-end watches and clocks from auction houses and other very high-end watch brands. So brands like Vacheron and Patek Philippe, when they had very, very high-end watches, very complicated watches to get fixed, they would send it to Roger Dubois to get it done. They also have an iconic watch, and that is the Excalibur. And I do not own an Excalibur. I own 3 Roger Dubois. I own a Homage, I own a Monegasque, and I own a Easy Diver. All 3 amazing watches and extremely, extremely well made. Everything is in-house. Beautiful watches. The Excalibur is their iconic watch. They do make a lot of other watches during that period of time. Now they only make essentially only make the Excalibur. And the thing about Roger Dubois is that you can get most of their watches for 75% off, in some cases even more than that. They really do offer some incredible watches. Roger Dubois, initially when he first started his watch brand, he wanted to make a Patek Philippe level watch, a Vacheron level watch that could compete with those brands. However, he wanted to do something that was a little bit more avant-garde, a little bit more special, a little different from the regular stuffy watches that were coming out of Geneva at the time. And he really did that. He passed away, and the brand has taken a really different direction now. I think they make incredible watches, and they made incredible watches, and they still do, with a different twist to them now, and they're a little bit more higher end, more expensive, I think, and not necessarily better. The next brand is Zenith. Zenith can trace their history to 1843, making it one of the oldest Swiss watch manufacturers in operation today. Zenith is best known for their high-beat El Primero movement, revolutionary when it was first created and still powering some of the finest watches ever produced. One of the most iconic watch movements ever made, and in this case, I would say the El Primero is the brand's icon. They don't have a single iconic watch, and really the El Primero is their icon. However, despite all of this, they can still be had at a bargain price, even the El Primero powered watches that they offer. However, the biggest bargain from Zenith are the non-El Primero watches. These watches, like the Elite that I own, have ultra thin movements. They are all in-house. However, they do not have the El Primero movement, and they sell for 60 to 70% off list price. That's on the secondary and used market. The El Primero powered watches, there are Zeniths that are powered by the El Primero and are extremely cheap. In a lot of cases, you can get those for 50 to 60 to sometimes 70% off, depending on the model. So a lot of horological history for a very little amount of money. Definitely Zenith, an amazing watch manufacturer, really the watch manufacturer's manufacturer, and they are a beloved brand. However, they do not sell well on the secondary market. Next on the list is IWC. IWC was founded in 1868, and they have many iconic watches. One of my favorites being the General Genta designed Ingenieur, a true icon of the 1970s and a very underrated watch in my opinion. This watch was designed by the same designer who designed the Royal Oak and the Nautilus from Patek Philippe. However, this watch does not get the credibility that it deserves in my opinion. IWC are most famous for their contribution to the development of pilot watches. During the 1930s, IWC presented the first watch especially designed for aviators with anti-magnetic properties. In 1940, the Big Pilot's watch marked another important milestone for IWC, and in 1948, they produced the Mark 11. So a lot of contributions to watch history. However, again, another brand that does not get a lot of money on the secondary market for one reason or another. Many of their watches sell for 40 and 50% off list price. You can get many of their watches on the gray market and used. The Ingenieur in particular, the one that I love so much, the one that is General Genta design, not the newer ones, they sell for way less than list price. For example, I own a Mission Earth, and the Mission Earth that I own, I believe retailed for around $7,000, and you can get one on eBay for $3,000 and under. And it's really a shame because they are amazing, amazing watches. Last but not least, Tiso. Tiso was founded in 1853 and have contributed many different innovations to the world of horology. To just list a few, they invented the first anti-magnetic watch. That was back in 1930, which was a revolutionary watch. Tiso also released the first mass-produced watch to feature 24 time zones, the Tiso Navigator in 1953. For me, one of the most notable and iconic watches currently made by the brand is the C-Star 1000, just an all-around underrated watch, an incredible dive watch, and one of their most iconic watches currently being made. Again, despite all of this history and innovation, Tiso right now are not selling as well as most other brands on the secondary market. They are already a bargain Swiss brand in my opinion. However, used and gray market watches sell up to 50% off and sometimes even more than that. For example, the Tiso C-Star 1000, one of my favorite watches from the brand, retails for around $800, and on the secondary market you can get these in the $300 to $400 range. Excellent price for a 300 meter dive watch with a Powermatic 80, ceramic bezel, and a bunch of other really great specs. All in all, these brands, like I said, some of my favorite brands, and the fact that they are affordable on the secondary market is good for me and not great for those brands. And I would imagine brands like Eterna, in the situation that we're in now with COVID-19, are going to have some issues in the future. But some of these brands are rock solid and will be around for a long time and have been around for a long time and hopefully continue to produce watches in the future. But anyway, if you found this video interesting or helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel and much appreciated. Please also follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is WatchChrisBlog, and thank you for logging on.